What is going on, my friends? Welcome to the Arrington Gavin Show, your go-to spot for sharp insights, bold opinions, and unfiltered takes on the biggest stories of the day, whether it's politics, sports, pop culture, or the latest buzz. Look, we're diving deep and keeping it real. So do me a favor, kick back, stay informed, and get ready to join the conversation. First of all, let me get rid of this gnat that's flying in my face right now while I was saying that. Jeez, I was trying to play it so cool. I want to say like, welcome to the Arrington. Anyway, guys, let's straighten up here. First of all, let me tell you something. Your boy was rushing today. I was having a meeting with our friends over at the creators of Goatverse TV, which is one of the platforms you can tune into to the Arrington Gavin Show. You can catch us on demand on the Goatverse TV app. It's an amazing app filled with so many great personalities and content creators like myself. It's available on the App Store, Google Play Store, as well as on Roku and Amazon Fire. And guess what? It's free. I don't know about you all, but look, right now, the way prices are looking, I like stuff that's free. So be sure to support the program by downloading that app. Like I said, it's an amazing app. Look, y'all, I'm just so hyped right now. As always, thank you so much for taking 1 hour of your time to tune into the Arrington Gavin Show. You know, we are a growing platform, growing each and every day, growing in subscribers, listenerships, viewerships. We are truly fortunate and blessed that you continue to pour into and support this program. Look, it's just me, your friend, your homie, having great conversations, hopefully entertaining you. But guess what? We want to inform you as well. And on today's show, we're going to have one of those great informative conversations. I'm honored to have my good buddy, this Nat. My goodness gracious. It's like it's really trying to mess with me here on this program. But no, I'm very honored because we have a special guest today. This is episode 300, by the way, 300th episode. And I couldn't be more happy to have this guest on, Mr. Blaizen Buckshot Bloom. That's right, Buckshot Bloom. Blaizen Bloom. It doesn't get a cooler name than that. First of all, I like in my mind, I'm like, that's a hell of a like professional wrestler name, or that's just a great name in general. Like Blaizen Buckshot Bloom, awesome dude. He is very not connected, very involved with the local community here in the Hampton Roads area. And that's one thing that I do love to speak about here on this program is that, look, we always continue to talk about stuff that's happening on a federal level, but you have to have the knowledge and understanding of what's going on in your own backyard. He's very involved with not just local politics, but state politics. And what's even more awesome? This man said, look, I'm going to take a leap of faith. I'm going to invest, and I'm going to, put my money where my mouth is, in a sense, right? I'm gonna run for office. That's right. And this guy is like maybe 22, if I'm not mistaken. I'll bring him on. He's a young guy, right? He's at least old enough to drink. I'll say that. But he is running for the House of Delegates 89th district, Virginia state delegates, and we have a big election happening here in the area and in the Hampton Roads, not just Hampton Roads, but here in the state of Virginia. With so much stuff happening on a state level, we have a governor. I'm sorry, in my opinion, I consider him the veto in chief, because all he does is veto. I'm like, what are we doing here, sir? Like, he literally has record numbers of vetoes. I'm like, do you want anything, I don't know, good to happen within your state? No. All right. Enough about how I feel about the leadership here. But besides that, we have a great line of folks, but we have a lot of people that is, like I said, has what it takes to run for office and has great ideas and great goals for the area, like like Blaizen, man. Blaizen, I've seen him work, grassroots within the community. I've seen him very involved and all around the place. So I'm very excited to have a conversation with him, and just to ask, why should voters consider him for this race? This is a hard race, a hard district to grab. And so I'm like, what makes you, what do you have, that can really, gravitate to voters and to residents? So I'm very excited, as I mentioned, to have Blaizen Buckshot Bloom on. I'm going to say his full name. I hope he gets used to it. I'm going to say his full name the whole time during the show. But y'all, look, again, you are tuning into the Arrington Gavin Show. We drop new episodes Monday through Fridays, available on all digital and streaming platforms. You can catch us on our YouTube platform. You can also catch us on Rumble at the Arrington Gavin Show. You can also watch us, as I mentioned before, on Goatverse TV. That's right, Goatverse TV Network on demand. As well, you can listen to us on all major podcast platforms, wherever you listen to your podcast, and on the radio airwaves with our friends over at our radio affiliate, WDJY 99.1 FM, Straight Talk out of the Metro Atlanta area. You can catch reruns of our program Monday through Fridays at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So look, there's multiple ways you can tune into the program. So I hope you do me a favor and support, subscribe, leave us a comment, all that great stuff. I truly appreciate it. You can also follow us on our social media platforms. For those who are watching, you can see it scrolling down at the bottom of the screen. For those who are listening, look, you can catch us at the Arrington Gavin Show, available on Instagram, Blue Sky X, formerly known as Twitter, as well as Substack. So multiple ways you can tune into the show outside. Well, because it's hard to really impact everything within 1 hour. So I tend to do a lot of content too outside of the show. So do me a favor. So follow us on those platforms. All right. What else do I have? Look, let's go ahead and shout out some of our supporters of the Arrington Gavin Show before I head to a quick commercial break. Let's go ahead and shout out some of our friends over at Priority Ford. Our friend James Church and his amazing team keeps you riding in style. Look, looking for the best deals on Ford vehicles? Look, at Priority Ford, they make your car buying experience smooth, easy, and exciting. From powerful trucks like the Ford F-150 to versatile SUVs like the Ford Explorer, they've got the perfect ride for your lifestyle. And with Priority for Life, you get complimentary oil changes, state inspections, and more for as long as you, check this out, as long as you own your vehicle, my friends. So, and in addition to that, they have financing options to fit every budget. So why wait? Go ahead, visit Priority Ford right now by going online to PriorityFord.com. Or if you happen to be in the Hampton Roads area, look, you can go check them out. Priority Ford off of Military Highway in Norfolk, Virginia. I myself, my friends, am new to the American vehicles. I'm new to the Ford community. I've been having no issues at all. Great team, great customer service, the whole 9 yards. It's awesome. So I want to shout them out for being proud supporters of the Arrington Gavin Show. All right, let's go ahead and take a quick commercial break. Don't go anywhere. We have a lot more show for you. As I mentioned before, I'm honored to have on for our 300th episode, Mr. Blaizen Buckshot Bloom, candidate for House of Delegates 89th District here in the state of Virginia. Don't go anywhere. We have a lot more show for you after these commercial breaks.
Still in traffic.
Don't look familiar, do I? Not in this seat.
Hey, what's that you listening to?
Here to host today.
Hey, turn it up. Yeah, this that new Goatverse app. I got you.
So y'all want to know where the goats are? They're off on the sidelines.
Looking for fresh, relevant content wherever you go?
What was the name of the app he said?
Introducing Goatverse TV.
Goatverse, that's what it's called.
The free streaming app that brings you the best podcasts, current events, and thought-provoking opinions all in one place. Download it now from the Apple Store or Play Store. In Goats, we
Become a man of distinction with Rugged Evolution Beard Care. Order our scented beard oils and beard balms to help you maintain and grow the perfect beard. Order today. Try our men's care products like the full body exfoliating cleansing bars, body wash, smooth stash, and more. Log on to our website or download our app to place your orders. Rugged Evolution Beard Care. We're your luxury but affordable men's care line. And remember,
rugged is the new smooth.
All right, my friends, welcome back to the show. As always, I'm your guy, Arrington Gavin. That is Arrington's my first name, by the way. I get a lot of people that says, is it Gavin Arrington? I'm like, it's Arrington Gavin. They're like, you have two first names. No, I don't. I have one first name. All right, Arrington, chill. don't think I don't want Blaizen to think I'm a crazy or a madman over here. I'm already, I was rushing. I'm fighting this gnat right now. It's killing me, man. It's killing me. They don't want this interview to happen. That's what it is. They don't want this interview to happen. But man, as always, y'all, look, that's just me going on my little crazy rant. You know how we do here. Very excited to have on Mr. Blaizen Buckshot Bloom. As I mentioned before, he's a candidate running for the District 89 in the Virginia State delegation. Virginia State delegate. And now 89th district represents Chesapeake and Suffolk. I'm pretty sure it's just the two cities, but I'll bring on Blaizen to explain more about this. And just, hey, what, why make the attempt? Why run for office? What is the reason behind? I'm always curious to ask folks that are running for, for local office, well, state office really, but just running in general. What is the reason behind this? Because we live in a society, guys, where it's like, a lot of people running for office it's a huge gamble, right? It's a huge gamble because let's be honest, it's not a fun job. It's not a likable job to a lot of folks, right? Because you see so many residents, voters, people are frustrated right now when it comes to, leadership, right? Local officials, state officials, federal officials. It's tense times that we're having. So as always, here on this show, we try to keep you informed what's happening on the state level, local level, and just let's get in the mindset with some of these individuals that are that we could possibly see not running but also in that role, in that as a elected official. So without further ado, I'm very honored to have on Mr. Blaizen Buckshot Bloom. I can't stop saying the name, man. Blaizen Buckshot Bloom. I'm gonna go to sleep saying this, like Blaizen Buckshot Bloom. My wife's gonna look at me like, okay, what is happening, brother? How you doing, man? Thank you so much for taking the time out your schedule coming on the show.
No, I'm doing well, Arrington. How are you doing?
I'm hanging in there, right? I'm fighting. I'm over here fighting this little gnat that wants to, tussle with me right now. I'm like, hey, can we take this outside? Why do we have to do it here? But no, I'm great, man. I can't complain. Just enjoying the great weather we've been having in Hampton Roads, man. The sun is shining now. I see the pollen kind of creeping out, so I guess that's kind of but hey, I can't complain, man. But look, I'm just so excited to have you on because for one, we've crossed paths many times at functions, local functions. And like I said, we've crossed paths, never had the opportunity to really like have a conversation. So I was very honored to have you on the program, especially when I heard that you were running for office. I'm like, whoa, this is major. So and it, not just the fact that for one, in general, running for a state position is a big deal, but doing it at your age you're at now. Now here on the program, I always love to advocate for more young folks getting involved, not just having the knowledge, but really getting involved, because at least I know I run my mouth a lot on the frustration I see where I'm not much of a fan of like the career politicians, right? That's just been up there forever. I understand the position depending on how it's how it's looking, but I'm just like, y'all, it's time to move it on for the next generation, for there's folks that do want to pursue. And so I want to first by ask you, man, what made you want to run for where's the thought process, right? Well, man, I'm going too much ahead. Let's bring it back. Tell the folks a little bit about you first. I'm all around the place. Tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, you're perfectly good, Arrington. Yeah, I think actually a lot of my background and who I am really plays into why I'm running. Again, I am Blaizen Buckshot Bloom. That is my name since birth. It's on my original birth certificate here in my filing cabinet. My mother, before she even met my father, decided that if she had a boy, she was going to name him Blaizen Buckshot. The fact that that alliteration was never intended from the start. But I grew up here in Chesapeake. I was born in Minnesota, moved here 6 months after being born when my father was deployed here in Norfolk in the Navy. And after my mother graduated college, I've grown up here as long as I can remember here in Deep Creek in Chesapeake. It's my home. And it's the only home I've ever known. I come from a rather like quote unquote normal background, which is very different in politics. Growing up, my father actually, when I was in the first grade, had a bad accident while he was in the Navy, and he is now 100% permanent service-connected disability as a result of that, which took him, with how underfunded and attacked the VA has been for years now, decades even. It took him most of my life, half of my life, 10 years to get a diagnosis and a treatment plan for that. My mother's who raised me and my younger brother. And so growing up, yeah, it wasn't a single parent household, but she is the one that cared for us, raised us on her one paycheck. And, you know, there are struggles growing up with being able to have enough. And we never actually did. We usually had to go into debt to make it by. And she worked, you know, she had a decent job. She had good benefits. She had to work overtime, but it's hard to, you know, take care of people on one paycheck. And so actually, you know, part of my upbringing comes, you know, when I was in high school, I started having health issues. I have asthma, I have Crohn's disease, and those are diseases that I pushed off on diagnosis and treatment. The asthma wasn't for so long because I was a runner, and it's hard to hide that when you're running and you suddenly have an asthma attack. And so
what is it with you runners and asthma? I know I have friends in track. I did track and field, so I had teammates. You know, were you long distance, like cross country and like long distance races, or? Yeah, what is it with you runners, man, with the bad asthma?
Yeah, I couldn't tell you. It wasn't until after the pandemic that it really started flaring up. Before then, it was like not an issue. After lockdown, we start reopening. I start really getting back into running. Breathing is like very hard now. Couldn't tell you what happened. It was just one day great, one day not.
Wow.
And so, you know, my first cross country meet back running, I had an asthma attack the entire 5K. Got diagnosed with asthma about a week later. Shocker. My Crohn's, on the other hand, though, it took me a few years. That's Liddy. And, you know, I started having symptoms at 16, got diagnosed at 19. It was not a pleasant 3 years. Even though we had great healthcare, I did not want to put any extra financial burden on my mother with either of those. And so, you know, I turned to advocacy, got involved in community organizing work, you know, trying to give back to my community, really try and help people who go through similar situations as I did growing up. And even now, I'm by no means in a financially, you know, stable situation, but much better off than I was even a few years ago. And so I turned to advocacy, trying to get back to my community. I really started off with environmental justice, you know, here in the area. And I sort of, from there, I took on what is the Atlantic Coast Pipeline, which was a textbook definition of environmental injustice and racism. If you follow that pathway, it went through low income and or majority minority communities and always avoided the well-off white communities. And it made no sense looking at a map unless you had that data, because it never made sense, which, you know, thankfully that got canceled in 2020. It was the only bit of good news I got for most that year.
Wow. That is crazy. I didn't mean to cut you. I didn't mean to cut you off. You know, one thing I'm just enjoying about, you know, what you're speaking on. Well, for one, it's always great to speak with another fellow Chesapeakean. I can, you know, I'm Chesapeake is my home as well. You know, born and raised. Now my district was Hickory, but I went to Norfolk Christian, so I've never gone to any Chesapeake schools, but that's where I'm from. And I will say one thing that, you know, I love my city, but I also have an issue with the fact that we do see, you know, in our leadership at least within the city alone, is a lot of, hey, we're going to take care of this side, like you mentioned, the well put together areas, and ignore the impoverished, you know, communities. And it's like, okay, that's not fair, especially, you know, when you have a council that's at large. It's like, okay, come on, we have to realize they have this they need to focus on this and just not one side. Getting involved with so I was hearing the frustration that when you were talking about your dad, being in the military, having an issue with the VA, that kind of started the started the engine going. When you say Buckshot Bloom, I know we were talking about cars before, so I'm kind of using kind of car corny, I know, but hey, look, I just wanted to bring in that kind of term. But it got the engine going because it's like, okay, wait a minute, you're seeing an injustice occurring, then you talk about your focus on the environment. Now, has the environment always been something that has caught your attention at a young age, or was this just later on in life for you?
I think it's, I mean, it's hard to say. I don't think I can
Mhm.
pin it to one thing. Growing up, whenever we did take trips, my mother was really into, hiking, going to the mountains. She loved the
Gotcha.
mountains and waterfalls, and so, usually on spring break, we would at least, go out to the Appalachians here in Virginia and go
Mm.
hiking, see some waterfalls, climb to the top of a tall mountain once or twice. But also, after, the current president got elected back in 2016, that's when my mother really wanted to get active
Oh
and
yeah, that
involved. And
guy. I'm sorry. I couldn't help. I couldn't help it. I couldn't help it. I'm a critic. I'm sorry.
yeah,
I'm an independent, but I'm a critic of this guy. I'm sorry. Continue.
perfectly good. So in 2017, um, late 2017, well, no, into 2017, she started bringing me and my brother out to marches and protests in DC, and they were primarily about science and the environment. And my educational background in higher ed is actually in environmental science, and so I don't know if I can pinpoint, but there's certainly a trend there from since a young age in elementary school.
That is awesome. That is really cool. And well, I love the fact that your parents really installed in you and your siblings, the power of, hey, look, there's a way to protest, peaceful protests of, if you see something wrong, you have to say something. You have to speak up. And I my parents were the same way. Uh, I work with a lot of I do a lot of nonprofit work in the community, and it's mainly because of my upbringing, right? I was fortunate to have resources that not everyone has. So my parents always said, look, always try to be a blessing to others because they need the assistance, right? They're being overshadowed and not focused on. And it's like, hey, look, a little thing can help, and a larger thing can also help as well. So I always enjoy hearing the fact that, hey, this was your parents raised you into really getting more involved. Now we're talking, we spoke about the environmental side, but what got you let's talk on, well, it is politics, but really what got you into politics? Now I will say this. I'm very fascinated with politics. I try to encourage folks to learn so much more because people like to run away from politics, but they need to understand, like, politics is in everything. Like, you can't run away. It's a part of your everyday life. As much as it's an unappealing thing to know about, because I mean, it's politics can be very unattractive, but it's the way it's the way you use it, right? There's some pros and there's some cons with it. What got you fascinated, with politics? I mean, I guess I kind of, I can say with the environment because that takes a toll, but really what got you involved or fascinated with politics?
Yeah, I think there's a few inflection points, and growing up, both my parents were very talk about politics, and I know that that's not everybody's situation. Funnily enough, both my parents are like opposite ideologically. My mother was even in the primaries was a big Obama fan in 08
Mhm.
12. My father voted for McCain and Mitt Romney in those same elections, and so my first memory, like historic event memory, was in 2008 on election night when Obama won, and my mother woke me and my brother awake. We were at my grandmother's house next door to tell me the historic news, and I did not understand any of it. I didn't
Ah.
understand what was so special about a black man getting elected. This is the first presidential election. I was 5, and I wanted to
Oh
go back to
gosh.
sleep. I was tired. And so, yes, coming into 2016, 2017, getting frustrated, I didn't really like either of the nominees in 2016. That's when I started myself paying more attention
Mhm.
after the primaries. In the people I was around, my parents, both my parents voted third party in 2016. My father for
Mm.
Gary Johnson, my mother for Jill Stein. They did not like either of the picks. And so that's when I started really, aside from growing up and being around it and being normalized to it, started paying more attention. And again, it was late 2017 when it was December of 2017 when I actually when I spoke at a city council meeting for the first time. And that was environmental issues. That was solar farms. And sort of from that point on, I sort of stuck around and kept being involved. And I was very frustrated with our city's leadership and how they treated some of these issues. It was solar farms, they were letting them on. They weren't doing anything about the pipeline. And as I kept getting more and more involved and learning more, it's just there's more and more to be frustrated about on, what parts of the city are getting the money and the resources and the attention from city leadership and which parts aren't. I was on the wrong side of the tracks growing up, metaphorically. And that shows from even going 2 miles down the road or 3 miles down the road to where my high school and middle school were, the night and day difference in just the basic levels of infrastructure investment and the community investment. And so I think just from that point in 2017, I just got more and more frustrated with the system and wanted to again try and do my best to change it for the better for my community.
Yeah, I'm loving hearing the story because I can relate as far as just the frustration piece. You mentioned the views that you were raised around. I mean, I come from I'll say a conservative Democratic home, so that's why I always been like, I'm really not married to any party. I've been like that ever since, right? I've been a middle person. I've voted both sides. I've literally always been in the middle. But it's interesting when you brought up the the Obama story, because now it gets me to know your age. Are you 24 or 25?
I am 21. I'll be 22 in a few months.
Jeez Louise, wait a minute. See, that just tells you I'm awful with math, because I was in because I was in 7th grade when Obama won. I had to be 7th. I was around 7th or 8th grade. Yeah, 7th grade, I think, when Obama won. And so it was pretty. And I didn't have any really knowledge. I knew how big and massive this was, but I would also say maybe I'll say Obama's second term, I started slowly focusing. And then, of course, the 2016 election, I think, really woke up. And just because you're like, wait a minute, he can't be serious. This can't be serious. It's just, it really got you involved. And now it's like, I'm stuck with it. I can't, I just can't stop. My wife, she gets so annoyed the way I, because I watch all the news, man. I watch the left, I watch the right, I watch the in between. I'm watching it 24/7. Each day I'll be like, okay, today I'm going to watch this one. You say from morning to afternoon or from afternoon to evening. And then I have a regimen, right? Same with podcasts. And I listen to all voice. And it's kind of that's just how I am, because I'm friends with everybody on all sides of the aisle. And so we have those conversations here on this program. Now, speaking as a, 21. When is your birthday again? I'm sorry. You said you'll be 21 when?
22 on
22.
June 27th.
Jeez Louise. But you know what, though? But just showing how knowledgeable you are with a lot of these current issues. What makes you, for one, okay, you're going straight to the states. Why not city first? So as far as running for city office,
Yeah.
Why not run for city? And
Yeah. So I actually have run for city. I ran for school board in 2022.
Okay.
And that was as a student who had just graduated high school in the pandemic. A very unique experience, and it was coming off the frustrations of a school board that didn't listen to anybody and would change their decisions every other week. Among other things that frustrated me, that was the point when I'm like, I'm running for office. And there's three points I consider to run for office. Before even running for office, I have to meet 3 characteristics. One is somebody in the community has to ask me to run. Oh, multiple people. Like, I don't want to be the one that says, yeah, I think I can be better than these people. I mean, it's to be in politics needs some level of narcissism, but ego rather. But if there are people that come to you and say, I think you would be a good fit for this, I think that is like essential to run for office. Like it can't just be you. Two is you have to feel that you have something new to contribute or something that other people don't. And three is that you have to see a pathway to victory. I ran in 2022 because I hit all three of those. I felt all three of those, and I lost. It was all the Republican endorsed candidates swept. Republicans swept nationwide, actually. We lost, Elaine Luria lost.
I remember that. Yeah. Yep.
And so, I took a hands off, got about, I actually ran as an independent in that election, got about almost 8,936 votes. No one's counting, 9,000 about that election. I came in 10th out of 13. And it, at that point it kind of hurt, but a lot of my family works in the school system. My grandmother, my aunt, my partner now, are working different, TAs, teachers, work downtown in the office. And what was sort of happening at the end of that second half end of the campaign into the next year was a lot of things I ran on, which wasn't like this culture war stuff that you were seeing. Not to say that it isn't necessarily unimportant, but I was talking about mental health, which no one was talking about, how we needed a curriculum and better resources and more staff that could help teach students and give them the resources. I was talking about how our discipline system is so out of date and it's so punitive, rather than looking at how we can be more proactive and teach students that, conflict de-escalation and resolution, and how to talk about problems before resorting to violence, and how that would be a much better framework as a discipline system, where we focus on teaching those skills on being proactive, not just suspending kids when things happen, which just incentivizes that or keeps the cycle going when they come back. That our teachers were way under supported, and those were issues. Those were like my top three things I ran on. And those were things that no matter who I talked to anywhere on the political spectrum, from diehard Trump supporters to, burning your bust and everyone in between, those were things that not only were important to me as somebody who just came from the school system, but resonated with people. And so while I didn't win, what I saw, what I heard from family in the school system was that some of these programs that I ran on were starting to get implemented or trial ran. And so while I didn't win, a lot of those things were so massively popular that some schools were testing out this discipline model, and other schools were looking at how they were actively looking at trying to hire more support staff for mental wellness and health, and that feels good. And so
Absolutely.
So I actually ended up running. I've ran twice before. I ended up
same position or
No.
different. Okay.
Different. And so again, my educational background is in environmental science. I've actually done policy research work for locally in Norfolk. I did some abroad in Grenada on Norfolk was environmental justice in the urban canopy, the racial disparity, and then in Grenada on combating sea level rise and extreme precipitation events, and made recommendations for how the government should address this moving forward. And again, with my history in environmental advocacy, I got asked to run for Soil and Water Conservation Director 2 years ago, 2023. And so I ended up getting asked to run that summer. So when I ran for school board, I announced back in August the year prior this election. I sort of announced a few months before the election, a few weeks before the deadline to file. And so I was one of 4 people running for 2 seats. And again, I had people ask me to run. I saw a pathway, and I thought I was qualified and had something to contribute. So I ran, and I didn't win again, but I raised half as much money, was running in a race nobody had ever heard of. Half the leadership in either political party had never heard of this position until 2023, when I was getting asked to run. Democrat and Republican didn't know what this position was until then. It was on the back of the ballot, which didn't help at all. I started campaigning a few months before the election, and I ended up coming in 3rd out of 4 I beat one of the incumbents, and I ended up, and this was 2023. This is like the lowest turnout election you can get in Virginia. Ended up getting 20 some odd thousand votes. Huge increase.
That is,
I was a few thousand votes behind second place. And so, from my standpoint, I love my city. I've served my city in a board wise and in the community, and I have no intention to stop serving my community and Hampton Roads more widely. But it became clear to me that there's no pathway, because it's just hard to run in a city of our size at large. There's a 250,000 people. We're the second largest city. We're one of the largest cities by land in the nation and by population. And it's hard to meet and talk with every voter, especially if you're not getting the money to hire staff and help you get everywhere and to get on the airwaves and on social media. It's hard on a shoestring budget with like 3 like critical volunteers. And so
yeah, no, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but you brought up a good point, because when you talked about the budget wise, right? For one, I'm just listening to you speak. Listening to what you're saying. Folks are already seeing the passion, because, hey, look, you saw an issue, you said, let me run. No experience running for anything. No, I'm gonna run for school, for city school board, because, hey, it was an issue. Let me take a leap of faith. Same thing going on for your last race that you ran. I'm hearing the passion, which I think a lot of voters want to see. I feel like they see a lot of politicians now that want to benefit themselves and not the people, and that's when you start losing the kind of like the loyalty from elected officials to people in the community, right? You see it when in voting numbers, you will see it in anything, right? So hearing you what you're saying, I'm just like, okay, this guy is really, really passionate about not only his city, but just about taking care of issues going on within this community, helping the community members have a better life, right? And knowing what is right. And hey, you spoke about the budget. I think it should be a conversation of its own when I see some of these local races and the money that's in. That's just me. I'm like, okay, this is insane. This is about we're looking at presidential numbers right here. Okay, when I see the money, and that's, like I said, that's a whole nother conversation. But I was about to say Buck. I'm like, no, Blaizen. When being so young, did that ever occur to you, like saying, okay, no one will ever take me seriously at my age, because they're going to look at me and saying, what does he know about this and that and the other, compared to, say, like, somebody of a certain age going in the community? Like, did your age ever give you doubts on running for office? Especially, like, let's take it now. You've run for for local races, but now you're running for a state office, a district that is quite conservative, right? I think it's is it Baxter Ennis district, if I'm not mistaken, that he's currently in. Delegate Ennis is currently in that seat. So did the age factor for you give you any doubts on saying, hey, look, I think I have what it takes to run?
No, I think for school board it was my strength. And even with this race, for school board, I was the only person running who's and even still in the city's history has been the only person that was in a public school K through 12 during the pandemic. I'm the only person that's ran for any office in the city with that background. And if I'm elected to state delegate, I'll be the only person in the entire state government that has been a public school student in our public schools during the pandemic, which when we're looking at tackling the inequities that came from that rapid shift to digital learning that teachers weren't ready for, parents weren't ready for, students weren't ready for, and the learning loss that just came from that haphazard switch because it was necessary to save lives, that the exact type of person you want in the room when you're trying to legislate and figure out what the path forward is somebody with my experience. And even the youngest member of our state government doesn't have that same background. The people who have worked in our schools that are on our school board now don't have. And so I think, that it is a strength in those regards once you come to understand that. And when I've ran, there's certainly, I think, an issue when people have never met me and don't know me, where they jump to conclusions and make assumptions based on my age. But what I found is that when people meet me and they talk with me and understand who I am, why I'm running, what drives me, that changes their perception. Like both times I've ran, it was hard to find somebody who would disagree with what I was saying. I mean, I have friends who have since left the Republican Party here in Chesapeake because they want to be able to support people like me publicly. Like they vote Republican most of the time, but they don't want to feel shackled that they support Republicans 95% of the time, and then 5% of the time there's somebody that's not a Republican they like that they want to be vocal and loud about. And when I ran for Soil and Water 2 years ago, that happened again. And the lead up to that race was actually when I was working grassroots with a lot of Republicans and conservatives, Trump voters who very much identify as MAGA, who we were trying to establish a green line in the city and try and get the city to stop focusing on these big McMansions and development down south and redirect that money and that investment back north into our communities that have been ignored for way too long. And that was what catapulted me in the running was those issues we were trying to fight for and get that representation on the ballot as a ballot referendum that ended up being a focal point in that campaign. And I remember like the only precinct I won that year was in Sunray. And
wow.
Sunray is a very there's two I think it was Sunray one. It's the more Republican one that
I know exactly which one you're talking about.
And when I was there on election day handing out, information on me, I actually had a family that was on their golf cart that stopped and was like, "Are you Blaizen Buckshot Bloom? We voted for you. We're so excited. We read on your website, rural preservation, so excited." The son was like, who couldn't even vote, was just like blown away he was meeting me, which was a weird moment for me. But again, it's this conservative precinct that I came first out of 4. 2 Republicans running. I was first place. Senator Lucas was in that district. She lost by a good margin. I think Karen Jenkins had that district when she ran for this seat 2 years ago. She lost by a slightly smaller margin, but still big margin. And so I think about, and that's a small enough precinct where there wasn't much outside interference from political parties, where I had some connection to the community. I had people very connected to that area that were out knocking doors and canvassing and talking to people and having those conversations at the voting station. And again, when people, I find when people get to know me and meet me and hear why and what, that they tend to be supportive and get on board. And so when I got asked to run for this seat over a year ago, it was like shortly after the 2023 November elections, and I had people coming to me from then through this past summer for like 6-7 months coming to me saying, "I think you would be a great candidate to represent the area, to represent the 89th in the state assembly." And so, I don't think I really settled my mind until after, until the summer.
Well, like you mentioned, the last election, and I've been very, very, very critical on this show in regards to the Democratic Party, right? Strategy wise, why they lost. Again, I'm a person where, look, I kind of go after both sides. If one side does good, I'm gonna talk about it. If one side does bad, I'm gonna talk about it. And there was so much that I could dissect to say, okay, this is why, in my opinion, why I think you lost. And so seeing why people are reaching out to you, Blaizen, is because you are a part of, I would say, maybe the new generation of folks that could possibly, I'm just saying this, maybe could possibly help build up the Democratic Party. Because that was going to be another question. Running as a Democrat, you're a Democrat, running as a Democrat, it could be, you're in a tough spot right now because the Democratic Party right now is taking a lot of heat. They're in a rebuilding stage now. I would say for the state of Virginia, hey, look, the Democrats have been doing quite well in the state of Virginia. Now, overall, I can't say, but in the state of Virginia has been doing pretty good. You have the majority in the House, majority in the Senate. And so you're, at a good spot. But, when you talk about Chesapeake, when you talk about Suffolk, because those are the 2 cities that you will be representing as far as in the 89th district, they lean more red, in my opinion. Now, I've spoken with folks. I've had my my good buddy who is a Democratic chair on, and we kind of had I've said, hey, look, Chesapeake to me is red. He's like, well, it's actually this. I'm like, I don't know. I'm just saying, if I look at this local council, it's looking a little more, one side, as well as on the school board side too. So I'm like, I don't know. It's a little more conservative in parts of Chesapeake. But I will say, Blaizen, we've had a great conversation as far as the passion, your upbringing, your reasons for running. But I want to talk mainly on why at the 89th district, right? Why? What is some of your reasons on saying, look, I want to run and this is what I want to bring to the table? Why the 89th district?
Well, I do want to say, even though we have the majority, when the maps were redrawn, the court map drawers said, yeah, about 55 of these seats lean blue, 45 lean red. Even VPAP has it to where 51 seats lean blue, 53 seats lean blue, 47 lean red, just based on both Kamala Harris's election and Youngkin's election. And so, even though we have the majority, we have fewer, like, if
it's by a little bit. It's not like you guys, it's not like it's like, whoa, we got a good, we got some good room. No, it's by a little bit.
Well, it's like if it was generic Democrat versus generic Republican and there was no outside influences, there should be like a 47-53, 45-55 split. So the fact that we only have a 1-seat majority really, I think, is a testament to failures of this party in the state to effectively face. And I think when we're talking about the future of the Democratic Party, some commentators have said that this is the Tea Party moment for the Democratic Party, and I would agree.
I've heard that too.
I think there's a lot of frustration with how national leadership and even state and local leadership has handled things. Every state in the union shifted rightward last year. All 50 states went to the right. Virginia went to the right. We still stayed blue. Chesapeake still stayed blue, which is a shock in enough.
I was very shocked. I was very
always
shocked.
goes with the winning president since 2008. So yeah, no, I was too. And so when I think about having worked on the ground, how we move from here, I think we need people who are tapped into the grassroots and understand that this isn't a normal year. Last year wasn't a normal election. This year, because of the results, this isn't a normal election. I mean, we see what's happening in DC, and I think it is just ridiculous to treat any fight we have from now, policy, election, as normal. When I think about Chuck Schumer and the CR, I think about, you're going off of years and decades of experience, but this is different. This is new.
Yeah.
This is untreaded waters. And so you can't rely on the past 40 years of experience when this is when we're going through constitutional crisis after constitutional crisis of the courts say one thing, the administration does something different, but they're trying to find justification, but it still disobeys the court order. And so who's right? What happens? You can't just say, oh, well, this would have caused more harm based on past precedent. That's not how this works. And you can't run a normal election just being like, people are tired of the Democratic base.
You said it right there, the establishment. And again, I don't mean to cut you off, but you bring on so many good points. I'm like, oh, thank you. Like, I think this is the difference, y'all, when you see, say, a younger generation from, old. I mean, like, I'll be honest, like, I'll give Bernie Sanders credit. Bernie has always said many of times, like, he's saying the stuff as far as listen to what your constituents is saying, listen to what the young folks are saying. Like, please, it's just like he's giving. Yeah, he can be a bit aggressive at some point, but he's really speaking on truth aspects. Like, I've had an episode, talking about the whole Schumer thing. I see points of where he was coming from, but at the end of the day, it's just that might have worked, I'll say 10 years ago, maybe longer, but just in this current period, it wasn't helping. I mean, again, I'm not going to kind of rail too much, but with this district, man, what you're seeing right now on a state level in the in Virginia. Like, what are some issues? What are some things that's really just saying, wow, people they vote for me, and this is what I would take care of, because we have a lot of issues happening. I kind of made a little jab earlier with the with our current governor. Like I said, veto in chief, because the man is vetoing. Now he's known to veto. I don't know what else he's been known to do. He's literally going in public places, getting booed and waving at him like it's like, okay, you're taking some pointers from the current president. Like, hi, get this angle so you can't see it. Yeah, I'm like, no, like, so for folks to say, look, I want to vote for Blaizen Buckshot Bloom, why should they get your vote? Or what can make folks, earn your vote? Excuse me.
Yeah, well, I think, as it's been so perfectly said, it's the economy, stupid. I worked on Kamala Harris's campaign, and between last year and this year, both for my own upbringing as well as knocking these doors, talking to voters, Democrat, Republican, swing. The issue is the economy. It doesn't matter what the numbers look like. Cost of living is out of whack. Wages are so down low and have not been keeping up. And those are the two big issues that matter. And now we're seeing, between some of the policies at the federal level, raising prices, and an economy that's starting to stall and stagnate. And, I fear for what's going to happen in the next few months and few years, that there's rights are under attack, democracy is under attack. Those are important, but that's what lost the Democratic Party the election last year. These abstract ideas that are harder to grasp than, I can't afford bread, I can't afford rent, I can't afford to get to next week. Again, that's what I grew up with. And so, what the issues I'm talking about are economic. Workers don't have aren't able to bargain with these massive corporations that have consolidated the markets, that there's no competition. The laws of supply and demand don't really work when you're the only supplier and you can control supply, or when there's two or three companies that can sort of not collude but can collude. That one of the most important things is that workers can have some balancing of this power dynamic, where we can strengthen, union laws, we can repeal right to work, we can raise minimum wage to, in my opinion, no less than $17 an hour. But also looking at how, again, there's no competition. What we saw out of this past administration, the thing I always give praise for, and I've been critical myself of this past administration, the one thing I give praise for is the consumer and labor protections. What the FTC was doing to protect consumers. Whenever I talked about that, even the conservative voters last year, talking about the FTC, I'm talking about, one-click cancellation. I'm talking about blocking grocery store mergers. Always popular. That was always popular with any voter I talked to, no matter how conservative. It would take the most diehard Trump voter to seriously consider voting for Kamala Harris because of that. And while we can't, crack down on monopolies at the state level, as a state legislator, we can try and support our small businesses so that they can compete at a better level. And whether that's looking at benefits like paid family and sick leave, and making huge corporations like Walmart or Amazon have to pay into a state fund that goes into small businesses and pays for the expense of having that, or pays into having higher minimum wages, so that when benefits of workers go up, cost on these small businesses don't. Walmart, Amazon, they're not really competed. They can eat into their margins. That's part of how they got this power. That, that and looking at how we can, have a progressive business tax where Walmart and your mom and pop shop pay the same rate in taxes. Walmart can pay more and the mom and pops can pay zero. And the state's going to have more money for that. All while, again, the mom and pop shop spending less in taxes can lower costs. And again, get to that point of like real competition in Virginia, where places like Walmart and Amazon, Target, whomever you want to name, feel this competition, where they feel a need to raise prices or raise wages, drop prices, increase benefits packages, so that the people in Virginia can benefit. And that is the number one thing I talk about in the doors. And even diehard Republicans hear about these policies and like, yeah, well, I like what you're saying. We'll see where we're on election day, but I like what you're saying on those issues.
That is, I mean, it's interesting. The world of politics is just interesting, especially when it comes to, that whole, I agree. I so agree. Well, what about when it comes voting day? we'll see. We'll see. We'll see. But you know what? I will say. I think I have about 5 minutes. But you know what? I want to have you back on again because I feel like we can. I'm a long-winded person. I feel like we can talk forever. But I really want to have more. I want to follow up with you, man, with this journey. For young people gravitating to that young vote, because I had the opportunity for the first time during the last election cycle to knock on some doors in neighborhoods for a friend of mine who was running for local office, and it was my first time ever door knocking. Most likely it might be my last because it was hot. I encountered a few dogs that were not so happy to see me, so I'm like, maybe this is not for me. But it was an experience. But I had the opportunity to speak with some residents, young people, and some of them were just not interested. Some of them were like, well, I don't get into politics, so I'm not going to vote. How can you pull on the young voters? Because there's some folks that are saying, well, the young voters they're more vibrant, they're loud now, they're growing, and some might say, well, they're still a little standoffish, right? How do you sway those young voters?
Yeah, well, I would say, and again,
most likely nonpartisan too.
Yeah, I would say this goes back to a critique of the Democratic Party I have. And last year on the Harris Walz campaign, this year talking with my campaign manager, people need something to vote for. And I feel a lot of what the Democratic Party has done, at least since 2016, has told you what they're not going to do. They're not going to let abortion access get taken away. They're not going to let taxes get cut for the wealthy. They're going to prevent these rollbacks of rights and protections. But people need more than that to go out and vote. They need a reason to vote. I have friends who don't vote because of that. I have friends who vote and half the time skip positions or vote third party because they feel the Democratic Party isn't giving them anything. And so again, in this campaign, what we're focusing on is the issues. We're focusing on what we're going to do to help you. Yes, we're going to stop the bad things. Yes, we're going to protect your rights. Yes, we're going to make sure that corporations don't get an advantage over you, these massive corporations. But at the same time, here's what we're going to do for you. Here is our priority to help you, not to stop them, but to help you. And I found that, again, this year, last year, whenever I've ran, that is a message where I have people. 3 years ago, I was running for school board the day before election day. I'm talking to a voter. I'm telling her about why I'm running. I'm telling her what I want to do, how it's going to help our city, our community. And then she starts asking me these questions of, so voting's tomorrow, right? When do the polls open? I go vote back there, right? Who else should I vote for? I'm like giving her like, here's what I recommend for city council, for school board. You got Congress on the ballot. And again, it wasn't until this conversation that gave her a reason to vote that then she was suddenly interested 12 hours before polls open. And that's exactly what we should be doing, in my opinion.
Man, look, definitely I want to have you back on because like I said, I was rushing today and then the NAT and everything. I really want to dissect more with your campaign, what some of your prime policies are. I really want to have that conversation. I want to have you on, my man. Look, I put on here, this is your website, how folks can please, you do the honors. How can people continue to follow up, read more about your story, read more that are interested, especially for those who live within the communities that you will be running for? How can people get in touch with you and just follow up more with you?
Yeah, so you can go to my website. Again, it's Blaizen Buckshot Bloom, my entire name, altogether.com. My social media is there. My email's there. Feel free to DM me on social media platform you're choosing on what's on the website. Give me an email. I'm more than happy to, have a conversation. Just, reach out. I'm more than happy to answer any questions. Go to any room. I don't care how liberal or conservative it is. I will go anywhere and talk to anyone about anything.
Love it. And that's what I love to see right there. That's what I enjoy to see. Blaizen, look, don't go anywhere. I want to chop it up with you just for a couple minutes after the show, so don't go anywhere. Again, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule for coming on. I think it's very inspiring to see someone of your age, someone that's so passionate, that's really, even of your age, you're a very experienced candidate. I just want to say, you're not, it's not like you just said, oh, I'm gonna run for. No, this man is experienced. I feel like you've been in office since birth. What in the world? Now you're running office. So I think it's truly inspiring to see what you're doing. And I want to have you back on, brother. And here's again, y'all, for those who are watching, here's his website right here, www.blaizenbuckshotbloom.com, blaizenbuckshotbloom.com, if you want to read more about his platform. So look, boss man, thank you so much. Again, don't go anywhere. I want to chop it up with you just a couple minutes after the show, but ladies and gents, again, Mr. Bloom, Blaizen Buckshot Bloom. I'm really like, I'm having fun saying his name. It's literally, my wife's gonna look at me like, what is wrong with this guy? What is wrong? So, y'all, as always, I hope you enjoyed this conversation here on the Arrington Gavin Show. It went by so fast. Again, I know 1 hour, Jesus, but he's coming back because I really want to have a part 2 of this conversation with Blaizen. I hope y'all enjoyed. I hope y'all, was informed, entertained. But like I said, information is key. Knowledge is power, and you have to stay informed. Start knowing what's happening in your backyard, within your local government. So look, check this, check out his platform, Blaizen Buckshot Bloom. BlaizenBuckshotBloom.com is his website. Y'all, as always, thank you so much for taking the time to to chime in with the Arrington Gavin Show. Be sure to tune in weeknights, Monday through Fridays, available on all digital and streaming platforms. Do me a favor, download Goatverse TV app today. It's free. If you on the App Store, Google Play Store for you Android users out there, Roku, as well as Amazon Fire. We are a growing platform. Please do me the favor and support. Subscribe, follow us on all of our social media platforms. I will see you guys next time for another great episode of the Arrington Gavin Show. Peace and blessings. I'm out.